You know the media wants you distracted. That's why the media is saying that polls are showing that Americans think that ICE is being too aggressive. But what they're not telling you is this. Over 70% of ICE arrests are violent criminals and national security threats. This is the definition of law and order. And Tom Homan just went on air and tore up the media's narrative completely to shreds. This is Andy with TrendingPolitics.com. Hit like, subscribe, and let's watch this together.
So, new Fox News polls show how Americans are feeling about President Trump's immigration policies. Only 29% of Americans believe every illegal immigrant should be deported, while the majority support deporting those charged with crimes. Almost half of Americans say ICE is being too aggressive in deportations efforts. 49% say too aggressive, and then 24% say not aggressive, and about a right 27%. Joining us now as Borders are Tom Homan. So, Tom, thanks so much for joining the program this morning. We just laid out the numbers right there of our Fox News polling. There's laws on the books that you guys have to enforce. Explain to our audience on how you're tackling these illegals in the country.
Well, look, if there's any change in the polls on ICE enforcement, it's because they're being fed a false narrative by 95% of the media. I looked at the numbers yesterday, Lawrence. Here's where we're at. 70% of the people we're arresting are criminals. Hard stop, 70%. Who are the other 30%? The other 30% are national security threats. Like we've arrested over 300 Iranian nationals. These are people who are national security threats based on intelligence, based on other information. These are people we have to take off the street, that we have to deport. Who's the rest of that 30%? These are people who had due process at great taxpayer expense, and a judge ordered them removed. A federal judge said they must be deported. So our job is to deport those people. So we're executing the laws issued by Congress, enacted by Congress. We're arresting 70% criminals, and the rest are national security threats, and those were final orders. But the left will make you seem like we're all arresting, innocent people, disappearing people, kidnapping people. But the facts are the facts. ICE is prioritizing public safety threats and national security threats, and the numbers prove it.
Well, also, Tom, there's another element about this is when people have warrants for their arrests, when there's criminals on the street and a judge has signed an order, but also if a judge has signed a final deportation order, that's a legal document. You don't get to selectively enforce when a judge has signed an order, right?
Yes, and here's why that's important. Let's say we don't execute those orders. We say, okay, Judge, you said he's already deported, but you know what? Because they're not a significant criminal, we're going to not deport him. That's the message we can't send to the entire world, because that's what the last administration said. We got to show the world that we're a nation of laws. If you break our laws, you're going to be held accountable. There are consequences. And because we're doing that is one of the reasons why we have the most secure border in the history of this nation, because we send a clear message. There are consequences for those who got by the Border Patrol. There are consequences for those who are illegally released by the Biden administration. Let's not forget, 10.5 million illegal aliens came to our border under Biden, and they were released on purpose. And 9 out of 10 of those people, based on immigration court data, 90% of them end up with an order removal. We have to execute them. If not, you might as well just shut down the immigration court, because orders don't mean anything anymore. Take the Border Patrol off the border, because no consequences. If you look at what ICE is doing, we're doing exactly what President Trump promised the American people. We're making this country safe again every day.
So, Tom, Senator Van Hollen is at it again. He once defended the Maryland man who had a criminal record as well, was a part of the cartel. Now he's defending the people in Maryland. And the Homeland Security Secretary made it very clear, look at the records. These are some of the monsters, as she put it, that he's defending. We got a full screen of it where you can see her Twitter post of all of the people with records that he was defending. What is your response to the senator?
He's an embarrassment to the position he holds. The Democrats are upset because we're proving every day what a national security threat, a public safety threat the Biden administration allowed, and he was silent. Him and the other Democratic leaders were silent, while women and children being sex trafficked at record numbers, a record number of Americans dying from fentanyl, a record number of known suspected terrorists coming across the border. They're embarrassed because we're proving exactly what they did, And President Trump is keeping his promise to American people, and they can't stand it. They want to flip the script. They want to mismessage to the American people. Well, it's not working.
It's truly unacceptable. And Tom, as a former law enforcement, I know you started in New York as well. I know you're praying for the law enforcement officer that passed away.
Once again, the media is lying to your face, and it's not by accident. And it's not just once. It's not in the heat of the moment, but over and over and over again with full confidence, with smug smiles, with perfect hair and teleprompters just glowing, right? And they lied because they think that you're too stupid to notice. They think that you're too busy to fight back, too broken to care, but we do care, and we do remember. We remember when they told us that the Hunter Biden laptop was fake, Russian disinformation, conspiracy theory, and then it turned out that every darn file on it was real. Emails, photos, business deals, all of it, and they buried it right before the election because they didn't want us to vote with the truth in our hands. You remember when they said that Trump was a Russian asset? In fact, they still say that. Obama just said that the other day, that Trump colluded with Putin, that the walls were closing in. And it turns out that Putin wanted Hillary Clinton in. And then after years of breathless coverage, we found out it was all paid up by Hillary Clinton and her cronies, propped up by Obama and other corrupt intel officials, fed to the media. And the media ran away with it. Why? Because they don't care if it's true. They only cared that it hurt Trump. You remember the riots, the cities burning, they called it mostly peaceful. Buildings in flames. Behind them, and they stood there like actors on a stage telling you not to believe your own eyes. It's mostly peaceful. And did we forget? And if we did say something, we were a bigot. Remember January 6th, how they turned this chaotic protest. It was a chaotic protest, I freely admit. But they turned it into national trauma. And they said that it was worse than 9/11, worse than Pearl Harbor. And you watched as they used to call it that anybody who voted for Trump a domestic terrorist. You remember when they mocked you for asking questions about COVID and the vaccination, when they silenced doctors, banned posts on social media, and they laughed in your face if you said, this doesn't feel right. And later on, when they were proven wrong, they moved on. No apology, no accountability, just silence. You remember when they said that inflation wasn't real, it was just temporary, that it was a good thing for you. And meanwhile, you were watching your grocery bill just double, all of your bills double, your fuel bills double, your paycheck feeling smaller and smaller. But the media said that you were imagining it. And now they want to lecture you about ICE, about it being too aggressive of an enforcement. They want to lecture you about compassion. Get out of here. The media doesn't care about compassion. They care about one thing, and that's control. They want you scared, confused, emotional, quiet. And because when you're quiet, they win. And when you're not quiet anymore, it's when we wake up and see the pattern. You have felt the betrayal that I felt. You know what it's like to be lied to by people who think they're better than you. And now we're done playing along. This isn't about partisanship. It's not about left versus right. It's about real versus fake, truth versus lies, country versus collapse. And the people who have been screaming disinformation from their ivory towers, they were liars all along since day one. So when you hear them say that ICE is too aggressive and that the polls say that that's true, that Trump's immigration policies are too harsh, that law and order is just mean, just laugh. Because these are the same people who defended open borders, fentanyl death tunnels, and child exploitation rings while clutching their pearls over mean tweets. And they don't get to lecture us anymore. They lost that right because you remember, you saw it all, and now you're pissed. And that's good because anger turns into action, and action is how we win. This is Andy with TrendingPolitics.com. Hit like, subscribe, stay vigilant, and I'll see you next time.